put that proposal with the real price in front of them. Talk to me about how that should go.
First slide that I'm giving when I'm giving pricing is always, these are the 4 problems that you said you wanted to solve, and then these are the 4 ways that we can solve it. Are we generally aligned that this is something that we would want independent of price? If there are competitors in the deal, I will oftentimes say, hey, there are these 3 other people who you are evaluating. And so far what you've told me is that we are the best fit for you all independent of price. The second thing that you need to validate is process agreement. And so you'll say, hey, Nick, I'm really excited that we seem like the vendor of choice. Let's just pretend that this conversation goes well and pricing is the way it is. I want to make sure that we're meeting all of your go live timelines. If we have a price that actually works for you guys, if the contract looks the way that you want it to look, that we actually have a way to move forward together and navigate all the other boxes that you need to check off in the organization. The 3 things that need to happen next are we need to get executive approval, we need to get finance approval, and then we need to do legal and security. This is how long each of those things will take if this next conversation goes well. Does that look about right? They give you another big green check. You now have process alignment. A third thing, the last thing you need is you need pricing structure alignment. I'm going to explain all of the mechanics around how our pricing works before I give you the number. And then I'm going to give you the number and shut up. After you give the price, do not speak a word. He or she who speaks first loses. So the way that actually sounds is I might say like, look, Nick, the way that we price is based on the number of seats that you ultimately buy, and then based on the different products that you have. So the full suite price for 1,500 employees is $100,000 per year.
So let's say the customer hits you with, oh, wow, it's actually a bit higher than we expected. What's your response when you get some pushback or resistance on pricing?
What most sellers do is they start to stammer, sweat, or the other person goes silent and they start to jump in and say, but we can work on it. If someone is acting surprised about pricing, you need to act surprised in return. And so if you say, whoa, that was wild, like that was way more expensive than I thought it was gonna be, I'm gonna say like, oh, well, Nick, I feel like I might have messed something up here because look, we're never the cheapest, but we're never totally out of the realm of possibility. And so I guess, what did you have in mind? I want to understand, do you actually have a sense of how much this thing could cost? Or are you just asking me for a discount? You're going to give me one of 2 answers. You're going to say, well, I thought it was going to be cheaper. Or you're going to give me a real answer. And you're going to say, well, your 3 competitors cost this much. Honestly, you're 3x the cost. And based on if they give me just the BS, I want cheaper versus the competitor answer, I can take it either which way.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to get that approved.
So if they say, I never thought this was going to be 80 grand, the first thing you can do is you can use a Chris Voss label. And you can say like, okay, it sounds like we might not be bringing enough value to actually justify the price. Or it sounds like we're a million miles apart. Another form of language that I like to use, I'm going to say, well, I mean, Nick, it's sort of hard for me to know like how far off we are. There has to be a number between $0 and 80K that you did have in mind. I guess like what did you have in mind? Because I don't even know how far off we are. I need to get them to take a step forward because otherwise I'm just negotiating against myself. If they give me competitors, let's say I'm charging you 80 grand and my competitors are charging 40. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push you away into the competitor. You might say your other competitors are charging 40K. I'm going to say, Nick, I know those competitors, right? And to my understanding, we were bringing things to the table that I knew you would value above and beyond what those folks brought. If they're offering everything that you need at half the price, I know I'm not going to be able to meet them at half the price. I guess why wouldn't you go with someone like SalesGoon? And so I'm going to push them away to the competitions. Either way, the next action that happens in both of these scenarios is they take a step forward.
What would you say to those salespeople that are really afraid to push the customer in the direction of your biggest competitor?
So I'm not saying you should just tell them to go to the competitor, but the reason you push them into the solution is what you're waiting for them to say is, look, I do want to go with you. I'm just not willing to pay double the price. And that naturally begs the question, what is the additional value that we're bringing above the competition? You get the prospect to say, no, you're worth a little bit more than the competition. Or no, I believe that you're bringing some value to the table. I just don't believe you're bringing 80 grand of value. Awesome. So now we just need to match price and value. But first, this is not the full ask. So once I get them to take a step forward, I want all of the steps forward. I get to do all of this stuff in one cut with my CFO. So I need you to tell me, are you going to come and ask for things like billing terms? Are you going to come and ask for things like rate locks? Are you going to come and ask for things like access to all future products? Whatever the most common asks that you know they're going to ask for anyway, bring those up now. You want to get the full ask on the table. And the reason for that is once you get the what else full ask, now you can use options to force trade-offs to get the final ask. So let's just pretend, Nick, that you say, well, look, I know our finance team is going to want 60. You want net 60? I was like, geez, every customer I've ever sold, they want net 15. And I'm fighting you like a dog on every single thing you bring to the table, even if it doesn't matter to me. I want to stay in this fight for a solid 10 minutes. You give me another thing on the table, I'm going to say, shoot, Nick, it's like we're so freaking far off. Is it even worth me bringing anything to my CFO? And they're going to say like, no, look, I can work on the billing terms. And so every single time you create a little bit of fight, you're getting them to come an inch forward. You want to start to create a cost to everything in negotiation. You want to start removing value in exchange for price. So every time they ask for something more, I'm going to ask for something in return. So you ask me for more seats, I'm going to be like, Nick, I guess you don't really need the total rewards portal. Maybe we can remove that. Every time you ask for something, I'm making it really, really, really painful until I feel like I've tenderized the meat of the negotiation enough that I know if I give you different options, you're so worn out from the negotiation that you're going to pick one of the options because you know you're not going to get much more out of me.
Talk to me about what you explain and talk through with a customer now.
So this can go one of two ways. They can either give me a number that I know I'm willing to accept, or they could still be really far off. Let's start with the first scenario. Let's say I was at that 80K deal and they're like, if you could get it to us for 70K, I think we could make this happen. I'm not just going to say, sure. Always give them what they want in exchange for something that I want in return. And now what I'm going to do is like, look, I think we can make something work. And now I'm going to double lock down my deal. Hey, if I go to my finance team, first thing they're going to ask me is this going to close by the end of the month? Can you get this done? They say yes. Awesome. I'm not telling you I can get this done, but I will tell you that if this thing slips past that and they do acknowledge that we can get this deal done, that deal is going to be taken off the table. So I need your word. They'll say yes. Awesome. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to force some trade-offs in the other things they brought to the table. And so I'm going to be like, look, I'm going to try for those billing terms. I'm going to try for the 1-year deal, but I can't promise those are going to get done. It sounds like the 70K price is really the most important thing for you. They'll be like, yeah, don't worry. If you can get that, we can concede on the other things. And now what this allows me to do is it allows me to come back with the 70K price, and I might even give them the other things too, so they feel like the freaking jackpot winners. It feels like they won the lottery. That's what happens when they get you to a number that you want. Accept the deal very, very slowly. Let's pretend that they gave me the number. They came up from 40 to 50K. And this happens a lot with a savvy negotiator. Let's say that I know my floor is 60K. What I'm going to do is I'll always say, look, Nick, we've got some other things on the table, and I'm not going to lie, we're going to have to work on some of those other terms that you talked about, but I think I can get a 6 in front of this number. Is that going to be a non-starter? Because I can fight like a dog with my CFO to get that, but it sounds like you only want to sign a deal if it's going to be 50K. Almost always, if I'm in striking distance, they'll be like, depends on some of the other terms in the deal. And that's when I know I've got them. And so now I can start to introduce those other terms on the table and basically run that same play that I was running earlier, where I can say like, here's what I'm going to shoot for. I'm going to shoot with a 6 in front of it, but I'm really going to try to get you those net 60 billing terms. And I'm just going to tell you now, it's probably going to have to be a 2-year deal. I need to know if that gets it done. If I can go get that deal, is it going to get it done for you? Because I'm going to be honest, like if not, I can't even go back.
They say yes. You go back, you meet with the customer again. And then when you get on that meeting, what are you sharing with them?
I'm always going to act like I'm going to bring back bad news. I'm going to pre-schedule a meeting with them tomorrow. I'm going to say by the end of the day, I'm going to work with my CFO and I'm going to try to get you an answer. My guess is we're going to have to review some of these options live because I don't know if I'm going to get everything that you want. The moment I get off that call, look, we're in sales. We know what deals we can get done. I'm drafting an email that says, hey, here's the terms that we can get. I know you asked for this, and this. I'm glad to tell you that this has been fully approved by finance. I've included my CFO on CC, or I would literally include Matt, my CEO, on CC. I would draft up that email and then I would time it for 4 hours later. And the reason for that is I did not want them to think that I was getting approval right away. I wanted them to think that I was working for approval, and I want them to see that my CEO is on the thread, and Matt would always reply saying, hey, my only ask would be that you keep this confidential because we love all of our customers the same, but we look forward to calling you a customer soon. This is what we agreed upon, big red letters. This is the due date of that agreement, and then this is what happens if we don't make that agreement, which was already discussed. If this slips, this will not be a deal. Once that is done, we're getting on our call together, and this is the beauty of having that pre-scheduled call, and we're jumping right into our process. We're setting micro deadlines for when they're going to get me first cuts back on their red lines. You do an entire work back from contract sign, everything that needs to happen before contract is signed, and you chop it up into 20 micro deadlines. So that's how you get your deal done on time.